You are listening to The Squeeze with Anthony Pasquazi and Andy Alleman on KSMR Radio, broadcasting live on 92.5 FM on campus and 94.3 FM in Winona, Minnesota, as well as online at smumn.edu/KSMR. KSMR, Real College Radio. Welcome to The Squeeze with myself, Anthony Pasquazi. We're broadcasting over those two radio frequencies in Winona, 92.5 and 94.3 FM every Sunday from 11 to 1. Well, tomorrow or next week, we're going 11 to 2 with a nice 3-hour show. Excited for that next week. We're also live streaming on YouTube under the channel name Anthony Pasquazi, Pasqueesi. Be sure to like and subscribe if you are watching us there. Also, feel free to join the conversation through the chat function of that YouTube live stream. You can follow the show on Twitter at TheSqueeze4. You can follow Andy at Andy Alleman and myself at _Anthony Pass with one S. As always, we love to take your calls. Our phone number is 507-457-1615. And that is the number that you will use to call in and win one of these beautiful black Squeeze t-shirts. You win that in the 16-second squeeze. The 16-second squeeze is your chance to win the shirt. How does it work? Well, you call in 507-457-1615 and you go up against our producer, Andy Alleman.
Bring it on.
In a test of quick thinking trivia, where you try to name as many of one category as you can. Every show has up to 3 caller contestants. The one with the largest margin of victory over their respective competition against Andy wins that black Squeeze
Bring it
t-shirts.
on, guys. They're pretty sick shirts. I'm not going to lie.
They're
I
pretty
love
cool.
It. One of my favorite shirts already.
There we go. I got a Snapchat video yesterday. There was a Squeeze shirt appearance at Gaslight. I believe it was Chris Shepard. He won it on the 16-second squeeze 2 weekends ago. So it was cool to see that Squeeze t-shirt, man. It's getting out there.
It's spreading.
It is. It is definitely spreading. In the show, we have Tyler Silp coming up at 11:15, relief pitcher. He's had a very good season thus far. We're going to talk to him between 11:15 and 11:20. We then have Connor Cornell coming in at 11:40, outfielder for that same baseball team.
Designated hitter as well, I believe.
Designated hitter. He's been in a couple one-game splits so far this season. We also have Professor Dennis Pedrick coming in at 12:14. We talked about his baseball theory last week.
If you guys didn't hear it, it's a very intriguing take. We're going to get his side of the story on it.
Yeah, excited to hear see if he can actually defend this crazy theory of the home run or the home run being obsolete in baseball. And then we have another draft. The results of our last draft were pretty surprising, actually. 30 votes, 15 in my favor, 15 in Andy's favor. So I guess you guys just couldn't decide on who picked the best team. But I guess that means every Smooth Sports team is pretty great, right?
I agree. It was a quality draft. I think we had a really good draft there.
I think we did too. So going with the theme of Smooth Sports drafts, at 12:30 later in the show, we're going to have a Smooth athlete draft. So we're going to go 6 rounds deep and pick our top Smooth athletes, past, present, future. I guess not past because they have to be here, but seniors who've already completed their final season are in the running for this Smooth athlete
present
draft.
And future.
Yesterday, I'm sure there are a few of these athletes that I'm going to name that will make their way into this draft. We had our first track meet.
Yes.
You and I had our first track meet, and although neither of us did exactly what we wanted to do, you had some less than great times, and I had a less than great jump, and then nearly pulled my hamstring. So great start for us.
It wasn't, it wasn't what we wanted, but it was also something that we were shaking the rust off. You know what I mean? It's our very first meet. It wasn't ideal that we had our meet last weekend canceled here at home. That would have been a nice little one where we had a handful of teams and we could have really shaken off the rust and kind of used it almost as a practice meet for this big meet where the quality of competition was very good, but that's not always how it goes. So here we are.
Yeah, that quality of competition occurs anytime that you go visit the Eagles of UW La Crosse. And that's where our team was yesterday. And there were a lot of top performances, I'd say, throughout the day. A lot of personal records. Personal records. I guess that works. But the big ones, the 2 big ones were Rachel Odie and Kyle Lichtenegger. Rachel Odie is only a sophomore on this track and field team, and she is 5th in the nation in high jump. She cleared a bar that almost assuredly will land her in nationals this season. I believe, what is it?
It's 5.6. I don't know exactly what the conversion is to meters.
I think it was 3. It was 3. No, not 3 something. 190. 190, I believe, is what it was.
That sounds right.
the last 10 years, that has only not qualified for nationals one time. So she's pretty much locked it up in the first meet of the season. I know that she's going to do her best to continue, grow, and really lock in that Natty spot.
And it's the first meet of the season, and I think that means that she has room to actually get even better and get even higher with the training that we'll be doing throughout the season.
And then right after, Rachel Odie did have that awesome jump. We ran down to the end of the track, the finish line. Kyle Lichtenegger in his semifinal of the 100-meter dash. Boy, did he go quickly. 10.74. 10.74.
Yep.
That smashed his 100-meter record that he already had by multiple hundredths of a second.
It's kind of funny. He was in the same heat as Desmond Stewart, our friend and teammate, who ran a great time as well. And one of my friends from UW Lacrosse, that's from my hometown, that I've been very close with over the years. And Kyle just kind of smoked both of them. He made them both look slow, and they both ran really good times. So I think that just testifies how good of a season he's getting ready to have.
And that lands him 8th in the nation. Now, the 100 is one of the hardest events in the nation to qualify for.
It comes down to hundredths of a second.
I mean, absolutely. I remember one time him telling me about indoor, the 60-meter, between him and the guy who qualified for nationals was 200th of a second, and there were about 40 names in between the two of those.
It's competitive.
It honestly it's going to depend on how he can continue to stay healthy this season.
Yep, he'll need to probably PR one more time. He might need to break 10.7 to make it into nationals.
Yeah,
that's the trend that's been over the last 8 or so years.
And then he did finish second place in that 100-meter with a time of 10.94 to a Lacrosse Eagle. Lacrosse Eagles crossed the finish line multiple times in first place. Someone who did not finish in first place, finished in fourth, was Desmond Stewart with a jump of 6.65. And if you don't follow Frankie Baccalars on Twitter, go look up Frankie Baccalars on Twitter. Although the caption is less than desirable, which is why the Squeeze will not be retweeting it.
Yep.
The video is pretty astonishing. Desmond Stewart was wearing sprint spikes which have a plastic plate on them, and he slipped on the already wet leaping board.
Yep.
Turned his ankle, which then sprung him up into the air, flying sideways like Superman, landing on his shoulder. He got up there. I mean, he's almost 7-8 feet in the air, it looks like his head is, and then he just crashes down. So go look that up. Frankie Baccalars on Twitter. It was pretty funny. It was terrifying until we realized he was okay.
He's okay.
He's okay.
Everybody.
You can laugh at it. No big deal. A lot of other great finishes. I did come in 9th place with my less than desirable jump.
You know what? It's something to build off of. Get healthy. So. Get healthy. It's gonna get you into conference, is it not?
It will. It most likely will get me into conference. Again, that slight pull of my hamstring. This was my first outdoor meet as a collegiate athlete.
Yep.
More of the same. So starting to feel like a little bit of a bust, but we're getting there. It's only freshman year, right?
Only freshman year.
Only freshman year. Christian Beamer had a nice showing. So did David Kemper. Noah Anderson. Great to see him back out on the track, healthy. He had a nice time in the 200
he did.
as well. If you notice, what I'm wearing right now is a Squeeze shirt. Yes, you can win one of those coming up very soon, 507-457-1615.
Yep.
But on top of that Squeeze shirt is a Cubs jersey. Now, before the season started, or after the season started, they won the first game, and I wore a Cubs jersey. And I said, I'm going to wear a Cubs jersey every single time the Cubs win this season.
And what did they do last night?
Well, they won, but it took a week. It took a week for them to win their second game. They are now 2-6. The Brewers are already 6-2, maybe
7-2.
7-2. So the Cubs are 5 games out, and we're only 7 games in for the Cubs. 5 games out, 7 games in. Not the best start, but last night sure was a great one.
Yep.
Can't watch it because of MLB's terrible blackout restrictions. I pay $95 to watch my favorite baseball team, and I can't watch them when they're playing the most competitive team in the division. It's really great. Don't you just love it? I love MLB blackout restrictions. So I was listening to it almost the whole way through once we got back from our track meet. Didn't watch any March Madness. I know that's kind of crazy. I didn't watch it. I was 0 for 2 last night. I picked Auburn, and I picked who did Texas Tech play?
Michigan State.
And I picked Michigan State. So
0 for 2.
0 for 2. Like I said before March Madness starts, none of us know anything. We're all guessing. So
did you see the highlights of the Virginia?
I didn't. I haven't even looked at it.
My
just tell us about it a bit.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. Do it, man.
So it was a crazy up and down game. Virginia had built some leads, and then Auburn got really hot, like they have been since the SEC tournament. They started shooting lights out. They went on a 12-0 run to hit 4 threes in a row, coming down the court in 4 tries.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it got down to the end of the game, and Virginia was down 2, and the guy bringing the ball up the court bounced it off the back of his leg, and they missed the double dribble call. No Auburn guy touched it. He was the only one to pick it up and touch it. Missed the double dribble call, came down, and then he missed, I believe he missed a free throw, and then he missed a shot. Auburn got fouled, made the first end of a 1-and-1. And then, so they were up 3, and then Virginia came down and shot the 3, and the guy got fouled, and he missed how did it go? They're up 2, actually.
Great radio right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to recall it. I was watching a Buffalo Wild Wings with my old man last night. It was a great game. They were up. Auburn was up 2 with Virginia shooting 3 free throws, and they made all 3 with less than a second left to win the game. All made by Kyle Guy. So it was an unbelievable game. It was up and down, really emotional, and it was a great Final Four.
And cost a lot of people a lot of money, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
March Madness every year. Not us, of course. We are collegiate student athletes. We're not allowed to bet on any athletics. No gambling. We're upstanding NCAA athletes, as always. Alec Root is one that has a little bit of a problem with that. He likes to pretend like he gambles. I don't know why he would do that. Don't gamble on sports until it's legal. Do you think we probably still won't be allowed to gamble on sports when it's legal? But that's okay. Gambling is not necessarily the greatest thing. But we got a little off kilter. I was talking about the Cubs. The Cubs got off to a very slow start. And at the beginning of the year, I mean, last weekend, we talked about that Athletic article about Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer mandating this sense of urgency for the Cubs this season. Last year, they won 95 games and they somehow lost the division to a very good Brewers team. I now have to say that, as much as it pains me. They lost to a very good Brewers team and then lost to a Rockies team at home in the wild card. Down the stretch, you looked at it and you said, man, if you won one more game anywhere, you wouldn't have had to be in either of these situations, the play-in game or the wild card game. And Theo Epstein looked at that and said, well, this whole attitude of 2 out of 3 is okay. A split on the road is fine. Really shouldn't be. You should go into every, Sunday day game, Sunday getaway game with that thought of, we need to win today. And that's why he mandated this sense of urgency. Looks like it has bitten the Cubs in the butt thus far, but I don't know if you can equate that sense of urgency to a whole entire bullpen that cannot throw strikes. I'm sure we'll ask Tyler Stilp about him and his issues last season with throwing strikes. I mean, he was, learning a new delivery, but I'm sure he'll be able to tell us like what goes on when you can't throw strikes and why can't you fix it. So that'll be fun to talk to him in just a few moments. But finally, the Cubs offense has scored 10 runs in 4 games this season, and they've only won 2. They only won 2 games this season. They've already scored 10 runs in 4 games. They're averaging, I believe, 8 runs a game in these first 7.
Really?
8 runs a game. They're 2-6. It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling.
It's great to see the offense doing what the offense has been doing. Jason Hayward, of all people, with the 2 home runs yesterday. Victor Caratini went yard. So did Javier Baez. I mean, I saw a tweet. The NL Central this season, as good as we thought the Brewers bullpen was going to be, and I mean, the Cardinals acquiring Andrew Miller, as good as we thought these bullpens were going to be, it's going to be the battle of the bad bullpens this season. Yeah. Cincinnati Reds don't have anybody. Pirates only have Felipe Vasquez. The Cubs have been struggling. Brewers have been struggling. Cardinals have been struggling.
Yeah, the problem is the Brewers lost one of their 3-headed closer.
Knebel again. Yeah,
Knebel with Tommy John surgery. That's tough to see.
And then Josh Hader is just a man. I mean, of course, you can have – and that's the other thing. The Cubs could sign Craig Kimbrell at this direct moment, and he wouldn't be able to help them until early May at the best. And that doesn't help Carl Edwards throw strikes. That doesn't help Steve Cishek throw strikes and not walk 3 batters in a row. That doesn't help Mike Montgomery not get absolutely tattooed. Craig Kimbrell isn't going to solve your problems. Andrew Miller is not going to solve your entire bullpen problems. Josh Hader is just one dude. He's not going to be able to tell a whole bullpen to throw strikes. That's just not how it works. One guy in a bullpen will not save your season. Cubs fans, you should be very, very worried. And I am a Cubs fan. I am nervous. Everybody's making jokes at me for their 1-6 start. And yes, I get it. It's a little embarrassing. It doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things.
No,
they're not going to be this bad. They're not going to be 1-6 bad all season. But that offense is going, or that bullpen is going to be brutal all season long. And if their core of veteran pitchers, starting pitchers, doesn't pick it up a little bit, whew.
What are we, like 1/20th, probably more, 1/20th of the way through the season? I mean,
we're not even 10 games in. There's 162 games, so we're not even 1/16th in there.
We're not. Don't sweat it yet.
I'm not sweating it. And the Brewers are gonna, you know what? I'm telling you, Andy, the Brewers are going to go 1-6 at one point this season.
Yep.
It's a little hard to believe it's going to happen because every baseball team, it happens to somebody. Definitely. Even the Mariners, who won 116 games that season, I believe they lost 5 in a row at one point. Yep. So it happens to every single team in baseball. It's just one of those sports. Someone said to me, man, I wish they just didn't play 162 games because it makes every game so meaningless. Well, that's because baseball is one of the most random sports out there. You need to let that time for the cream to rise to the top. You have to, the good teams normally finish at the top and the bad teams normally finish at the bottom. I mean, in football, that doesn't always happen. You can argue that this team was way better than this one, but this one just got off to a slow start. Now they're out of the playoffs. In baseball, the best teams make the playoffs. That's how it works. You can't really argue it. You can argue who wins in the playoffs, who the better teams really are.
And the thought on meaningless games, it came down to game 163 for our teams last year.
Yep.
So I can't say that every game is meaningless.
Exactly. It may feel meaningless in the grand scope of everything. You're watching, one at bat, one game, 1 4-hour afternoon. But you know what? That 1 4-hour afternoon can stop you from having a lot of 4-hour afternoons late in October. So I would rather, win the games early and struggle down the stretch than, struggle right now because it just short-sightedly feels absolutely terrible. 507-457-1615 is the phone number. We're going to go to break here, but that's how you're going to win a Squeeze t-shirt, a fresh black Squeeze t-shirt. 507-457-1615 is the phone number if you want to be a contestant on the 16-second Squeeze later in April. It is already April. It's hard to believe, but what is the best way to gear up for Townie this year later in April? How about a night of running, dancing, and partying with DJ Charco? That is exactly what Light Up the Night 3K on Friday, April 26th is. A night to exercise with friends and support your fellow students. The event is free to St. Mary's students, and the run starts at 8 p.m., followed by a DJ Charco concert at 9. Dance yourself into Townie during this incredible event. The Light Up the Night 3K is brought to you by Residence Life. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and in the name of spreading awareness, Res Life has partnered together with SAC and KSMR to make this event a special night for St. Mary's students. According to studies, 66% of college students experience sexual harassment. Help end the statistic. The first step is awareness. Join your fellow students for a special night at the Light Up the Night 3K, Friday, April 26th. We're going to be right back. 507-457 is the phone number with Tyler Stilp. Very excited to talk to the righty submarine pitcher after this. Keep listening. We'll be right back. to the Squeeze with Anthony Vasquez and Andy Alleman on KSMR Radio, broadcasting live on 92.5 FM on campus and 94.3 FM in Winona, Minnesota, as well as online at smumn.edu/KSMR. KSMR Real College Radio. No one wants to challenge you, Andy. I think they're afraid.
They should be.
No one called in for the 16-second Squeeze. 507-457-1615 is the phone number. We'll give you one more shot before we start talking to Tyler Stilt. That is how you win that Squeeze t-shirt at 507-457-1615. Tyler, did you know you're going to end up with a Squeeze t-shirt at the end of this interview?
I did not.
You didn't? No. Okay, well, there you go.
That's awesome.
You're getting your free black Squeeze t-shirt. One of the first athletes to do so. But nice. This is Tyler Stilp. He's a junior here on the baseball team for St. Mary's, and he's one of my favorite players, not to watch because I'm not going to get to watch a lot of baseball games this year because of track, but just to hear about and to see pictures of. He's a submarine guy, very, new way of pitching for Tyler Stilp. He wasn't like that in high school, and he wasn't even like that his freshman year. So how did that occur? Why did that happen? One day, you just decided to become a very, usable submarine righty.
Well, it started off end of freshman year. I was actually out in left field, and I was just kind of, dorking around and throwing sidearm, and our pitching coach, TJ Oaks, came over to me, and he's like, wow, that actually looks kind of good. Like, you could probably do that. So then he had me, throw a bullpen sidearm, and it actually went pretty well. I threw strikes, and the ball was moving a lot more than when I was overhand. And, so he's like, we're going to change you to that, and we're going to use you out of the bullpen a lot more than what you could use, over the top. So it's given me a lot of opportunities to actually get in the game.
Yeah,
than overhand.
And before that freshman year, how much did you pitch overhand?
I didn't pitch at all.
Not at all.
I actually was an outfielder.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Outfielder.
Oh, you were literally in outfield. I thought maybe you were practicing in outfield.
No, I was in outfield. Actually, when he saw me throw a sidearm, we were just in the outfield messing around. But I was mostly an outfielder freshman year, and then
really.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy.
Wow, look at you!
I've done it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then last year you did struggle with command. You saw a lot of walks and not a lot of innings, almost one per inning. This year, though, you're down to 6 in 15 relief appearances. So, you've gotten that number down. What has been, the hardest part about getting that control with the sidearm?
I think it's just, repetition, kind of getting that feel down, because it's all release point. For me, it's if I don't have the right release point, then it's, way left or high or in the ground. And just a lot of practice. TJ Oaks has, got me on this throwing program, which has helped me a lot. It's kind of like an infielder where I practice throwing sidearm a lot. But yeah, it's that and also mental too. I just got to, feel that same release spot every time. And it's just kind of consistency with that. So
how much velocity can you possibly get out of a sidearm release?
Oh geez, I don't even know. I mean, probably like 80, if that. That's probably what I top at if I'm feeling good. But mostly like high 70s.
So I mean, you've been very successful this season. Your ERA has been a little inflated. It's always hard to judge a relief pitcher on their ERA, but in your last 8 appearances, you've only given up 1 game with runs. That was a 3 against St. John's. Not so pretty, but
not so pretty.
What has been working for you over the course of these last 8-9 appearances?
My slider, actually. Yeah, I really got my slider down. Last year, I didn't really have a slider, so I just threw all fastballs. And, having that second pitch just really helped me out a ton. It's been able to get them to pop up or even a couple strikeouts. I've had a lot more than last year. Also, get them to ground out, just having that secondary pitch to kind of throw them off helps me out a ton.
Yeah, so last year you were just lobbing fastballs.
Just straight fastball, yeah. But it moved enough and they just couldn't hit it. Or if they did, it was just a grounder every time because it dips down kind of like a sinker every time. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and before you came in, or before we were on the air, when you came in, you said that you'll basically do whatever coach asks you to do, but primarily you've been the setup guy for Cody Keel, the closer. Do you like that role, or do you feel like you could close some games out as well?
Well, I feel like I'm more of a setup guy. I'm not as, I don't throw as hard as Cody Keel, and I think he is more of a shutdown guy. Like he has more strikeouts and everything, so I feel confident with him being the closer. I like setting them up. It's kind of just like a bang thing. Yeah, I mean, my pitching's a lot different than his, so I think it goes well with each other, because mine's slower and obviously a different arm angle, and he just comes in, lights out, and just shuts it down.
Gives batters something to look at.
Yep, yeah, definitely Definitely.
absolutely. Slow righty, or
Yep.
and then a hard throwing Cody Keel. You guys are already third place in the MIAC. You split with St. John's, nationally ranked team. You just split with St. Olaf, first place in the MIAC. You actually handed them their first conference loss yesterday, so that was pretty cool to see.
Fun.
Do you guys believe that third place in the MIAC is around where you guys are going to finish, or do you guys want to win the MIAC? Is that possible?
Well, I mean, we always are trying to shoot for that top spot. That's what our goal is, trying to get up there. And yesterday was a tough one, splitting with them. That second game obviously didn't go as planned. I think our bullpen and our starters didn't do as well as they wanted to, and our offense just wasn't there the second game. But I think if we all kind of put it together, we've kind of been the team where it's like either our bullpen's on or like our pitching's on or our hitting's on. And I feel like once we come together and actually
you have both of them be on.
Yeah, once both of them are on, then we could be that top team.
Maybe that's going to be this week against St. Thomas.
Yep,
Is that
St. Thomas Tuesday.
There we go.
It'll be it.
Is it going to be at home?
It is not.
It's not.
It's at St. Thomas.
It is. Okay.
Yep.
Who are the starters there?
It's going to be Ryan Wolf and Eli Morse.
Nice.
There we go.
I mean,
two quality starters.
absolutely. We
Yes.
talked about the back end of the bullpen, a very effective back end of the bullpen with you and Keel. You also have a very talented starting rotation. James Green, arguably the best pitcher in the conference.
Yes.
Then, like you said, Ryan Wolf is an ERA leader, and Eli Morrison, when he is on, he is absolutely on with that curveball. So, do you guys feel like you have one of the best, pitching cores in the conference?
I do. I really do. That's what TJ's always been preaching to us, is we just need to get that mental down, and then we could be one of those top tier, bullpens or pitching staffs. So,
and I will mention it's kind of funny that Ryan Wolf's going to be starting next Tuesday, because I believe he's the guy that pitched a complete game against St. Thomas last year.
Yep.
It's haunting them. We'll hope it haunts them.
Yeah, absolutely. He won MIAC Player of the Week that week, and then he got his appearance on the Squeeze. He was in on it early. He was in on it before the rest of you guys.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
telling me
yeah.
about
I owe him a
that.
T-shirt because I didn't give him T-shirts back then. But yeah, that was awesome to talk to him. And he's only a junior. You're only a junior. Keel's a sophomore. Green's a sophomore. Eli is a senior. But you guys are young. You guys are talented. I think I picked you second in our SMU sports team draft. So I have a lot of high hopes for you guys, and I know you do as well. Last season, you lost to Gustavus in the first round of the playoffs. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oof, that was a rough one. Yeah. I think there's a big difference too with the pitchers, because we were in the bullpen actually instead of in the dugout, and all year round we've been in the dugout, cheering our team on, giving us high fives, and actually talking with Wino, he said, Justin Weinberg, he said that it was just kind of flat in the dugout. So I feel like if we get there again, we can't have our pitchers be down there. We got to have most of our team in the dugout, actually. But it was a tough loss, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it sounds like that had a lot to do with it, that team culture and that team chemistry. Can you tell me more about it? I mean, just how good of a teammates you guys are.
Yeah, we always pick each other up. It's just it helps us out. The hitters, they always talk about how when they strike out or ground out, they're obviously mad at themselves, and the pitchers kind of just help pick them up. They remind them that they have more at bats, and it's just a good team culture right there. And
it's a brotherhood.
Yeah, it is definitely.
And
each other's backs.
That brand new locker room probably has to help just a bit. How sweet is that place?
It's amazing. I hang out in there all the time. After class, go in there, do homework. We're very blessed, that's for sure.
And we're very jealous.
Yes, we're very jealous in our little cube down there in the basement. Yeah, I mean, you've probably heard all the jokes coming about that locker room. Could you tell us maybe about any experiences you've had with athletes who've given you a little bit of a stink eye for getting that locker room?
Well, I know there's a couple hockey kids that are they're jealous of
I'm
us.
sure.
But I mean, it's yeah, I guess it happens.
I mean, they have their whole hockey complex. They have a whole wing of the
that.
entire building.
Yeah.
So I think they're okay.
They'll be all right.
It's the track guys that are
That's
little
right.
tiny cute.
We are jealous. It is beautiful.
It is very beautiful. I mean, was the opening day kind of walk around, was that yesterday that people got to go in the clubhouse and look around, or is that later in the month?
I think that's later in the month.
Okay.
Just a lot of players brought their families through. So
yeah, man, I wish I could have gone in earlier. I wish I could have gone to the opening ceremony, but I'll definitely be taking a walk through in the open house. Another thing about people joking, I hear it almost every weekend after a baseball game that you get chirped at just a bit
because
you
very much
you
so.
throw a little bit weird.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It's every time I get on the mound, every time I get out there, they're like, "Who is this kid? What's this clown? Why is he throwing like that?" Even the ump yesterday said, "I've never seen a sidearm like that." It was a lot of people are throwing chirps my way. They're calling me a bowler. They're calling me a sidewinder, not dragger. That definitely might have had something to play with my sophomore year too. That did get in my head a little bit.
Okay.
I was kind of feeling like, wow, I'm kind of weird. Like, can I really do this? And yeah, but I get chirped all the time, and
you embraced it.
I have embraced it a little bit this year. Yeah,
and
a little bit more.
Like I said, you've been pitching real well. The team has been doing awesome. I mean, you got St. Thomas on Tuesday, and then you have McAllister on Saturday. St. Thomas, a very quality team. McAllister, not as much. When you go in against, those two different opponents, you look at one, you maybe say, hey, let's just split with this team, and then you take care of business against the other two. Is that kind of the way that you look at these teams, or is it, let's win two every single weekend?
It's the goal is always to win two. And our coach always says, we're not satisfied with one. He always wants us to get that second one. Even if it is St. Thomas, he always wants us to, beat them both and sweep them. But maybe that might not be the case, so much. But we're always trying to shoot for that sweep just to, get our team up there. And we got to beat the best if we want to be the best. So.
Absolutely. I like that. Oh, look at that. Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Tyler Still, thank you so much for coming in on the squeeze. It's been a long time coming. I've been trying to get you on the show for 3 weekends now. Yes. So, thanks for coming on. Your teammate coming on in just a bit, Connor Cornell. You want to tell us anything about him? Maybe something we should ask him?
You should ask him about the curveball.
Ask him about the curveball.
He can hit the fastball real well.
Okay. The curveball, I don't know.
He'll laugh about that.
Okay, sounds good. 507-457-1615 is the phone number if you want to win a squeeze t-shirt that Tyler Still, I'm sure, will wear proudly.
Yes, definitely will.
Around campus. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for listening. You are listening to The Squeeze with Anthony Pasquazi and Andy Alleman on KSMR Radio, broadcasting live on 92.5 FM on campus and 94.3 FM in Winona, Minnesota, as well as online at smumn.edu/KSMR, KSMR Real College Radio. Look at this. How lucky are we? From one stud baseball player to another. Tyler Stilp to Connor Cornell, sophomore on the baseball team. Was an outfielder last year, but moved to first base this year. You want to tell us a little bit about why that change was made?
Yeah. So Jake Berry was a senior last year. He was unreal at first. I don't think I've ever seen somebody so skilled and athletic over at first base. So losing him, it was pretty tough, especially in the field. Barr obviously had the potential for power. He would hit so many home runs a year. He had like 11 home runs his junior year or something. So it's been a little bit of a jumble over at first, fighting for spots between Gustafson, Droner, and I. You see I'm like 6'4". Barr was like 6'5", 6'4". Over at first, it's good to have a long, projectable, lanky body. You got to have the flexibility, but the length is really important over there for stretching for balls, and if balls still overhead, be able to jump and keep it in the park. So it's just been working on getting me up to the level I'm supposed to be at to play at first.
Yeah, I mean, I remember last year I saw a couple really athletic plays by you out in the outfield, and I thought, hey, that's your center fielder. That's your guy. He looks like a prototypical, just fast, athletic dude.
Yep.
How have you been able to make that switch over to first base?
So I played a little bit my senior year over at first base, so I have a little bit of familiarity with the position. But it's been a lot. There were a lot of things I didn't know about first base coming into college. No knocks to my varsity coach, but I didn't learn the things that I was supposed to be working on. So it's been a bit of an adjustment, but slowly but surely we're getting there, and keep on working, and hopefully I'll get up to where I need to be.
Yeah, and you said you've been splitting time at first, and how is it dealing with that? Maybe not being able to get into a rhythm because you're not playing every day. Does that have something to do with why your production's been down just a bit this season?
It's something to get used to. It's something that you have to work on mentally, because it can cause you to put some pressure on yourself, where you're like, I need to do well in this position, otherwise the X will happen. So just working on staying consistent mentally is really important. Last year I got in a bit of a rhythm. I was feeling really good. I was consistently playing. So I knew what to expect every day when I came to the field. And when you come to the field not knowing exactly what to expect, it makes it a little bit harder. So that's something I've been working on. It's just all mindset. It's mental stuff. So yep, we'll get there.
Okay. And like I said, center fielder last season, you were a hyper athlete. I mean, one of the best athletes on the field. But I mean, you only have 2 stolen bases this year. Yeah. What has that been, moving over to first base?
Yeah.
What has that been?
So it's not the stereotypical first baseman can't run sort of stereotype.
Yeah, you moved over and then it happened. You lost all your speed.
Yeah. So actually, first practice of the year, within the first 15 minutes, we were doing our sprints, and I lunged on the last step, strained the hamstring right away, and was out for 2.5 to 3 weeks with very limited participation. But so it's been lingering a little bit. I've been working with Emily, the trainer, who's unreal, the best trainer. I couldn't ask for anything other than her. But so I strained the hamstring. It's been a grind to get that thing back up. It's not quite there, but it's getting better.
Yeah, I mean, it's an imperfect muscle. Uh-huh. I mean, the second you do anything to it, it's just sorry to talk about me. This is not about me, it's about you. But in high school, when I was a senior in long jump for finals at state, I just totally just popped it, same thing. Oh gosh, I could barely walk after. And the first thing my coach says was, "You're never going to be the same again." Yeah. It's just a terrible thing to say to an athlete, but it's really, and I just strained it again yesterday. It's one of those things you just have to stick with the rehab. I'm sure you've been doing that. Yep. Do you think, you're getting closer to 100%?
Yeah. I'm definitely getting closer. Considering where I was 2 weeks ago. It's been better since then. Actually, in the Florida trip, it was actually really, really bothering me then. I would take like 6 ibuprofen, throw a brace on, put creams on. I was doing everything where I couldn't even feel it. But so it's definitely improved. I'm getting closer. But yeah, it's definitely still there.
Well, hey, you're working at it. Yeah. We all know you're working at it. So now that I know, I'll understand if the production's down just a bit. Lingering injuries can really, they stack on top of each other. So it's good to see you that you're working. Last year, you had an awesome season, batted over 300. You started in a whole bunch of games. What did you do this offseason to try and refine your game? What did you work on the most?
Yeah, so this offseason was actually more geared towards defense, because that's ultimately what I need to work on to consistently stay in the lineup. The offense is definitely my strong suit. That's what gets me in the lineup, but to keep me in the lineup will be defense. So, like, for example, I would go to the racquetball court with a racquetball, and for first base stuff with soft hands sort of drills, I would throw it against the wall and working on soft hands. Fielding the racquetball with your bare hands is not easy. So just doing that over and over, I would do that almost every single day. And then it was just your typical hitting the cage with some of the guys on the team. And then over winter break, I worked with my trainer from back in high school, who was a ex-professional baseball player. And I got to give a lot of credit to him for where I'm at today. He's taught me so many important things about hitting. So I work with him also. I talk with him about my swing. I show him videos from games. All that was what I was working on.
What's his name? I mean,
Aaron McEachern. Aaron McEachern. Yeah, he made it up to high A ball. He played for like 2 years and he wasn't getting called up, so he called it, and he's been coaching and working on swings, and he opened up his own business now. It's been like 4 years since it's been open. It's called Max Strength. And basically everyone in the St. Louis Park area, which is the high school I went to, we all work with him because he's a St. Louis Park graduate. But yeah, he's a great guy, and I owe a lot of things to him.
Okay, well, hey, speaking about St. Louis Park, how did you get here?
It's all the baseball program, honestly. Coach Winicky was he's great at recruiting. He's an unreal coach too, and I could see it right away. In my other visits, I met the coaches. I like the campuses and stuff, but when I came here and I felt the culture and what Coach Winicky was preaching, and it just felt right. It felt like home. And I know about the community within the entire school. It's got a great culture. Everybody's here for everyone. It's a small campus, so everybody knows everybody, and it just felt like a good community to come into.
Yeah, you mentioned home. Well, now you guys have a new home. We just asked Tyler about it, but tell us a little bit about the locker room. How sweet is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. We've experienced the locker rooms down here, and they're not all that special. You got the little cube, you got the couch, but this clubhouse is unreal. It's connected us like no other. I mean, there's always people in there. There's people playing video games. There's people doing homework. Like it's just always so lively. If you're ever feeling lonely, just go there and you'll see 15 of the baseball guys. So it's been great. I couldn't ask for anything better. It's just such a gracious donation.
Yeah,
unreal.
I mean, absolutely. They call it a clubhouse for a reason.
Yeah.
Ours are called locker rooms because that's really all you do. You just change your clothes and leave. But you guys get to spend a lot of time together, and I'm sure that has done a lot for your team chemistry. You guys have gotten off to a hot start this season. Very good results in the MIAC so far. Third place. You have St. Thomas coming up on Tuesday.
Yep.
What do you guys need to continue to do if you guys are gonna stay third place and maybe get even better in the MIAC?
Yep. So we really got to work on consistency with our energy level, more specifically. First game, we always come out really hot, and we stay on them all game. Energy's up the entire game, and we get that first win, and then it almost feels like we get a little bit complacent with our one win. So that's something we're gonna have to work on, is just the consistent energy levels when we come into our games. Like for example, yesterday we came in really hot, played a great St. Olaf team. We played them really well, beat them 3-2. Energy was high the entire game. Everybody was into it. Then we got into the 9-inning game, and they jumped on us early, and the energy was just kind of super low. We didn't have a lot of fight in us, so just working on our consistency with the energy levels will be big.
And then Tyler said, looks like you need to work on hitting the curveball. What's that all about? You said that's your best part is your offensive game.
Yeah, so I definitely got to get on the curveball. I got to call Stilpe out. He's got to stop hitting so many batters. But the curveball is not the pitch I'm ever looking for. So when I'm ahead in the count, I'm always hunting fastball. And then once I get into the 0-2 count, curveball, I'm just fighting it off. I'm just fouling it away until I can get that fastball and hit it hard. But curveball is definitely something I got to work on.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, pretty much every baseball player hits off the fastball. Yeah, no, the curveball, you don't do a lot of damage with the curveball. But, you said you just fight it off. That made me think of Anthony Rizzo choking up on the bat. I'm not a baseball player. I wish I was. Yeah. But, he's the guy I would look up to. Who's a major league player that you look up to?
Josh Donaldson, 100%. He's a third baseman on the Atlanta Braves. I based a lot of things in high school with my swing off of his swing. I don't fully go on with don't hit the ball on the ground. That's kind of his approach, is elevate the ball with everything. But I really like how his timing mechanisms with his lower half and his hands and stuff. It's all real stuff that I really like and I agree with. So Josh Donaldson for sure is my guy.
Okay. Well, hey, good luck on Tuesday against St. Thomas, and thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, this has been Connor Cornell on the Squeeze with Anthony Pasquesi and Andy Alleman. 507-457-1615. That's the phone number. Win a Squeeze t-shirt. I know you want to. 507-457-1615. We'll be right back. Thank you for listening. You are listening to The Squeeze with Anthony Pasquesi and Andy Alleman on KSMR Radio, broadcasting live on 92.5 FM on campus and 94.3 FM in Winona, Minnesota, as well as online at smumn.edu/KSMR, KSMR Real College Radio. We changed things up a little bit, changed the timetable on the show, but you know what? Connor Cornell came in came in a little bit earlier. Tyler Stelp, right back to back, double barrel baseball.
And you know, there's two really good interviews. I really liked listening to both of those and adding little comments. But yeah, they're awesome.
Absolutely, Connor Cornell just sounded really knowledgeable about his own game and the energy stuff. Actually, here we go. Did you talk about this? The energy stuff that we were just talking about with the Cubs.
Yeah,
clearly that has something to do with it. You always hear that baseball is not football. You can't try harder. You can't. Oh, we didn't even ask Tyler Stelp about throwing strikes. Maybe we'll ask him off the air and then get back to you. But you cannot try harder to throw strikes. You cannot try harder to hit a fastball.
Yeah.
It is a finesse game. It's all about technique. It's all about repeating your approach and having the same arm slot, having the same swing path. That's what it's all about. So what I think he was talking about wasn't urgency. It wasn't trying harder in the game. What it sounded like to him was being in the game.
Yeah.
The bench being active and cheering for their guys and picking their guys up. It makes sense to me. Like we said, you cannot try harder. That's not what we're talking about.
And the interesting thing that I kind of noticed looking at their schedule, they always seem to win the first of the back-to-backs, and then they tend to lose the second. And the second one, historically with trends, has been a little bit more of a blowout.
Yeah.
So I mean, that energy, they're really bringing it the first time, but they gotta follow up a little better.
Part of that might just be the fact that James Green pitches in the first game in one doubleheader, and Ryan Wolf pitches in the first game in the second doubleheader. Those are your two best pitchers, far and away. And then it falls off a little bit with those two quality pitchers in Szymanski and Morrison. They're still very quality starting pitchers. I'm not trying to give them a shot, but they're not up to snuff where Wolf and Green are.
Wolf and Green are just on another level.
Exactly. It's hard to be. So part of it probably has to do with starting pitching. Momentum is tomorrow's starting pitcher, as the cliche goes in baseball. So, momentum is the next game's starting pitcher. But you just heard him say it, and you heard Stilp say it just a bit. Urgency, staying in the game, being active and really paying attention. At a track meet, I mean, maybe not in running, but in jumping, you have downtime. It's almost the same flow as a baseball game. Where you jump for 10 seconds, you're at the plate or the ball's coming to you, and then you have a lull for 5 minutes where you're not doing anything. You have to stay in it, because the second you let yourself go away, everything is going to fall apart.
Well, and you said that about running. You just run and then it's done. And I guess you could say a little bit about, I would say the 4x4. That takes a little time, where you're sitting there and you got to wait for your boy to come around the corner and get that stick off to you, and then you hand it off, and then you got to pay attention for two more guys. I mean, I guess that's something you can be argued, but it's definitely something you see in jumps and in throws.
Yeah,
and vaulting and high jumping, everything.
It really does. You look at sport and you just see technique, you see ability, athletic ability, but there's so much of a mental game that goes into it. Who was it? Cody who said it? Cody Michaels, our coach, assistant coach in a team meeting. Whatever, off the record. He probably won't mind me saying this. He said it and really stuck with me. Every team in the nation is weight training the same way. And they're working out the same way. We all have the same hard workouts. We all have hills. We all have quarters. We all have squat racks. What sets you apart as an athlete that's going to take you to that next level is not necessarily athletic ability. Athletic ability can only take you so far. It's the extra. It's the mental. It's the capacity to do the same thing every day and be okay with it and to love it, to love the grind.
Well, and not only that, I think it's just, and you said the little stuff. I mean, it's just working on your weaknesses, identifying them. I have weaker hip flexors. I'm doing exercises to try and make those strong before the end of the season. Or it's about, getting on a consistent basis with your sleep. It's about getting the right food in your body and getting a real well-rounded mix of food. It's a bunch of different things.
Okay, well, here we go. We got a phone call. We're just going to screen the call on the air. Always dangerous, but I trust you guys. Hey, what's your name? Where are you from? You're on the squeeze.
Hi, this is Alec Rude, and this is St. Mary's tennis team calling from the van. We're heading up to St. John's right now for our tennis match.
Hey, Alec Rude, your voice sounds a little bit familiar.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't ring a bell to me.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. Andy's shaking his boots.
No idea.
Well, what's up, Alec Rude? How are you doing? Are you excited to go play St. John's?
No, just hearing about you guys talking about James Green and Wolf and the St. Mary's baseball team. The tennis team was kind of thinking, once the team, if they do make the playoffs, what do you two think? Like, how do you think when the Cardinals have to play those couple games and like maybe every other day once they get to the semis and the championship and stuff, how could they win when James Green can only throw it in like a 4-day span? What do you guys like recommend the baseball team could do to kind of get through that game 2 loss factor?
Well, it really does you have to ask yourself the question as a team. Look inward, say, can we win that first game with Ryan Wolf? Can we win that first game with a guy who isn't going to be shut down, who's probably going to allow 3 to 4 runs? Can we win that game? Can we score that amount of runs against that more inferior team
it would
to
be
get
a
you to the
shootout.
next round?
Yeah, it'd have to be a shootout, you know?
Yeah, you're good. I mean, like we said, Ryan Wolf has the capacity to throw a complete game shutout against St. Thomas. So he's no slouch, but it would be looking inward and asking yourself, can we make it to the second round and then use our ace? Or you just say, James Green, get us to the second round and we'll figure it out later.
All right, that's great. Hey, this is Robbie Subzak now. Got an interesting question for you guys. So you're track athletes now. I'm just curious, what is the funniest component that goes into your track warm-ups as you guys prepare for big meets?
The funniest component, as in like the quirkiest, the oddest, or just straight up laughing out loud?
Yeah, just funny moments that are behind the scenes things that just your team has, you know?
Well, I mean, this might not be laugh out loud funny, but for some reason, C-skips are the hardest thing in the world.
They so
for
are.
Everyone on the team. We're all kind of uncoordinated. We're all really white. We don't have a lot of rhythm. So I think the C-skip is the toughest thing for me personally.
And for listeners that don't know, a C-skip is basically where you're pushing your leg up to the front and then you're pushing out to the side, basically in the same motion, and then you're switching over to legs. It's something that takes a little bit of getting used to, and it seems like a lot of our team hasn't gotten used to it over the span of since August.
Like I said, really white, really uncoordinated. So I think that's the quirkiest part of our warm up for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Thanks, Anthony. That's pretty funny. All right, thanks, boys.
Okay,
right.
Good luck, guys.
I'll be back next week. I'm going.
You
All right,
will be
everyone.
back next week. That was Alec Rude on the road to Collegeville, Minnesota to play the St. John's Johnnies. I'm telling you, that was totally just out of the blue. Thank you so much, Alec, for the call. We've been joking about it, saying that he should call in when he's at the tennis match. But hey, boys got a dub against River Falls over the weekend.
Yep.
The girls continued their dominant reign. They will make the playoffs most likely
No, they will.
later this season. So
Got to give a shout out to Julia Bovey. Just set the record for most single wins in a St. Mary's career, and I believe she still has a few games left. That's exciting.
yeah, absolutely.
Set the record.
Laura Sande,
Unbelievable. Yeah.
you know, she had that awesome winning streak last season, and you know, they're picking up right where they left off last year. Hopefully they can make it deep in the playoffs.
That's why I drafted them. They're a dark horse team on campus. You don't hear a lot about them, but they consistently do well.
They do, and maybe that's why we tied and I didn't win, is because you picked that nice little dark horse of the women's tennis team. Thank you, Alec and Robbie from the van on the way to Collegeville, Minnesota. Speaking of Collegeville, Minnesota, not really, because St. Thomas isn't in Collegeville. It's in Minneapolis.
It is in the MIAC. They're all in the MIAC.
Okay, they're all in the MIAC, but maybe not for long. I don't know if you've heard about this. Andy brought this to my attention. This is courtesy of the Star Tribune. Headline, MIAC rivals plot ouster of St. Thomas. And the article details a meeting that's going to occur later in this month of all school presidents voting to either vote St. Thomas out of the conference or allow them to stay in. 9 votes out of the 13 will be required to oust St. Thomas by the end of this season, by the beginning of 2021.
The next season would be their last season if this were to pass. They would be outed, which is ironic because they were one of the first 5 schools to form the MIAC, and they will be celebrating their centennial season next year. That would be pretty ironic to me.
It would. I mean, like you said, they were one of the original 5 founded in 1920. St. Thomas, St. John's, Hamlin, Macalester, Gustavus Adolphus. Those were the original 5 schools in the MIAC, but St. Thomas has just grown so much. They have an undergrad enrollment of, I believe, 6,500 students.
No, it's a significantly larger amount.
More than double
Yeah.
the next closest, which is St. Olaf. It's more than double. And that's a problem because you take a step back and you say 6,500, that's not that many students. And then you look at St. Mary's, between 800 and 1,200 students every year. That is a David versus Goliath. And it's not just St. Mary's. We might be a little biased because we're such a small school. We're always the underdog, but almost every school in the MIAC is closer to our size than St. Thomas's size. So there are pros for sure. I would love to see it. St. Thomas has not lost an indoor conference track championship
ever.
They have never lost. They win
over 30
every
years.
single season. And outdoors, the only team who has beaten them has been St. John's, and it's only happened twice.
Yep.
The dominance, the utter dominance of St. Thomas over the rest of the conference is honestly out of hand.
And it's not even track and field. I mean, it's almost every sport. It's women's track and field, it's men's track and field. I know the softball team has been pretty dominant. Women's basketball has been kicking butt for a long time. I mean, I believe they made the Final Four.
They did
this year. And on top of that, I mean, the football team, it got ugly there last year. They beat two teams back-to-back weeks, 84-0 and 97-0. That's unbelievable.
I mean, and those are the teams that are trying to vote them out of the conference. Here we go. Here's another call screening on the air. Hey, what's your name and where are you from? You're on the squeeze.
Hey, Anthony, this is Colin. I'm from Winona, Minnesota, and I was wondering if you could talk about how good the women's tennis team's been lately.
I have no idea.
I know Julia set that record, and that Laura's been doing well, and that they're 6th or 5th in the MIAC right now.
Actually, was it their 10th in a row yesterday they won? Yeah. So that tied a team record, I think. So.
Really? Well, congrats to the women's tennis team. That's unbelievable.
Wow, Colin, you sure know a lot about the women's tennis team.
I do.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm the manager, of course.
There you go. You're the manager.
There you
Yeah,
go.
You got it.
Let's give them a little shout out.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Shout out to women's tennis team. They're awesome. They're doing really well, and like that's why I believe that they're one of the better teams in the MIAC, and that's why I added in my sports draft last week.
They made the sports draft last week. The men's tennis team didn't. So.
Yep. No. Shout out to the women's tennis team for a great season.
Okay. Thanks for the call, Colin.
Yep.
Okay, that was great. He
great.
wanted to call, he heard it. He called BS. He knew I knew nothing about women's tennis. So
That's
I got what that was. I got it. So
but
we're good.
Back to where we were. I mean, and it's just the football is getting ugly, and St. John's wants them to stay because it's a quality competition for them. And then when they win those games, I mean, it's huge for St. John's, but they're one of the only teams that can really hang with them.
Yeah, and that's what is detailed in the article. There are some teams, I believe Carleton, a representative from Carleton was also quoted saying, when we beat them, it's game-changing for our program. It's a high watermark for our program, but it's only a high watermark to a point. When they're dominating every team, when you only beat them once, really you understand it's just a bad game for them.
And I mean, I will say, when St. John's and St. Thomas played at Target Field last year, it was the largest D3 football game ever, like the biggest fan base. But it's really the only game for St. Thomas.
37,355.
That's unbelievable. But I mean, that's the only, like I said, it's the only team that can give them a run. It's just ridiculous. And, it feels like these kids are just, kicking the rest of the MIAC's butt. They're just on another level. And it's good for the program at some points because it gives our conference, I would say, recognition nationally. But it's also bad for the individual teams because no one ever wins besides St. Thomas.
Yeah, and that's the biggest con of St. Thomas leaving, being kicked out, being ousted from the MIAC. Not them leaving and saying, hey, we want to be a low division D1 school or we want to be a D2 school. Being kicked out. There's going to be some backlash for the conference and for the teams. The MIAC is going to lose a lot of prestige if this school is eliminated from the conference because, yes, we are one of the top athletic conferences in the entire nation when it comes to Division III. But a lot of that has to do with our top-end talent. So this is the biggest con for me. I would love to see St. Thomas out just because we are track athletes and we've only seen them absolutely dominate everybody in an unfair fashion, to be frank. It is not fair competing against St. Thomas in the track realm. In everything else, it's fair. Football teams. You have the same size team. Basketball, same size team. Yes, you get better recruits, but it is possible to beat them in those sports. In track, which is where we are coming from, it is impossible for a team of our size, a school of our size, to knock them down. Not because we're worse than they are, but sheerly because of the size difference between the two schools.
And Carleton last indoor season, they had probably the best team in the conference, and they pushed all their chips into the middle of the table. They went for it, and they failed, and they still almost beat them. But that's a very rare instance in the MIAC track and field conference indoor meet.
So it really is. There are two talking points, I think, that you can come
It's
from.
a double-edged sword.
It's either it'll make the entire conference a little bit more competitive, which might take away from the overall prestige of the conference. That's the other talking point. You look at it and you say, hey, St. Mary's now has a chance to be a MIAC contender. But as an outsider looking in, do I want St. Mary's to be a MIAC championship contender when they can't compete on a national level? Or do I want St. Thomas, who can clearly compete on a national level, to win the MIAC every single season?
And it's not that St. Thomas is winning literally everything. I mean, the women's hockey team for Hamlin made it to the national championship this year.
And they beat St. Thomas in the Final Four.
Yeah, no. And then, I mean, the Augsburg's men's hockey team made a nice run there in the tournament. And you have St. John's that's making the tournament consistently for men's basketball. Granted, they've been upset 2 years in a row in the first round. But I mean, there's more to our conference than St. Thomas, but St. Thomas is a large part of our conference. Nationally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would almost disagree with you and say the MIAC is St. Thomas and St. Thomas is the MIAC. When you ask, if you would poll 100 people who are Division III, follow Division III athletics, and you ask them who is in the MIAC, the first team they would say 9 times out of 10 is St. Thomas. That is the team that everybody knows. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they have the largest alumni base. They have the most funding. They have the largest enrollment. They have the best facilities. Yeah. They're going to have the best team. So I was very surprised when I saw this come across my desk when you showed it to me. I think overall it's a good thing. It's a good thing for us personally. It's a great thing for St. Mary's. And it's going to benefit the bottom half of the conference because we then get elevated a position. But the top of the conference, the St. John's and the St. Olaf's, the schools who can compete with them on an enrollment level, they're not gonna benefit as much as we are.
It's gonna be an interesting point to kind of follow in the next couple of months is whether this will pass or not. I know that Macalester dropped their football team from the MIAC because it's just been so bad, and if St. Thomas were to be kicked out of the MIAC, then Macalester would be brought back in. And I think there's a lot of other schools that are being pressured within the football program that if they don't vote for this, there's going to be repercussions. I think a couple teams are actually thinking about dropping out of the MIAC and it'd only be a 5-team league. And that's just something you can't have. It seems like it's basically St. Thomas or half the conference that's dropping in the football specifically.
So you have Augsburg, Hamlin, St. Olaf, and Carleton all threatening, basically blackmailing, saying if they're not out, we are. So that's half of your football conference. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for a conference that wants to stay competitive on the national side.
I don't believe I've ever heard of anything like that ever at any level. I've never heard of anything like that nationally.
I mean, they're literally waging their lives. I mean, they're pushing all their chips into the middle. And again, I think it's a good thing. I also believe that it's a great thing. There are 13 teams in the MIAC conference. They need 9 votes. They need 9 out of 13. It's not simply a majority vote. It is 9 out of 13. And I believe that if they get those 9 votes, that'll reflect the fact that this is a great thing for the conference.
And what's interesting, I think of St. Thomas, if they don't get voted out of the MIAC and you see these teams that are voting against them that have made actually the Star Tribune article, I think that St. Thomas they're going to make sure they pay when it comes to football season. I think they're going to run up the score. I think it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. Well, 507-457-1615. We've had a couple calls looking for our first 16-second squeeze competitor. We're coming up after the break. Professor Dennis Pedrick is coming in to tell us his theory on how to save the beautiful game of baseball. I want to hear from him, and then we're going to have a little conversation about it. So 507-457-1615 is the phone number. Thank you for listening. We will be right back. You are listening to The Squeeze with Andy Pasquazi and Andy Alleman on KSMR Radio, broadcasting live on 92.5 FM on campus and 94.3 FM in Winona, Minnesota, as well as online at smumn.edu/KSMR, KSMR Real College Radio. Here we are with Professor Dennis Pedrick, first-year professor here at St. Mary's. I had the honor of being in his presence all semester last semester, so very happy to have him in studio today.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So again, it's been a long time coming, but I heard about this theory and I wanted to share it with the world. So let us know, what is your baseball theory to save the beautiful sport?
Well, I don't know if you need to save it. I just think you need to change it just slightly, and that is to eliminate the home run.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, if you throw a ball in football and it goes past the end zone, what happens?
It's dead ball. It's out of bounds.
It's out of bounds. Yeah. If you hit a soccer ball and it misses the net and it goes past the net, what happens?
It's out of bounds.
It's out of bounds. So if you hit a baseball past the end zone, it counts as a big score. Now, what's the consistency between the sports?
Well, but that is the whole point of baseball.
No, it's not.
It's to score runs.
Yes.
And the easiest way, the most impressive way, some would argue the most difficult way, the easiest way in terms of quickly getting a run on the board, but most difficult in terms of hitting a tiny ball that's coming at you at 100 miles an hour and hitting it 500 feet. Mm-hmm. It is one of the most impressive things in sport, and you're just telling us to take it away.
Well, I'm not saying to take it away the home run. I'm just saying that you have to hit the ball in the field of play to get the home run.
So an indoor home run, in the park home run.
Yeah, an in the park home run.
Interesting.
Okay.
I mean, if you think, let's look at it this way. And there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but let's look at it in a couple different ways. One, how has the sport changed since it began? If you think about the field, how far is it from the pitcher's mound to home plate? 60 feet, 6 inches. How far is it from home plate to first base and to second base to third base and back to home?
90 feet.
90 feet. Has that changed?
No.
No. Has the dimensions of Wrigley Field changed?
Well, the foul territory has, but
The ivy wall of the park is still there, has not changed.
it has. I mean, originally, if we're going to get technical, there was no wall in Wrigley Field.
Right.
So,
But since the wall's been built, has it changed?
No.
No. Okay. Have the players changed?
Yes.
In what way?
Well, in the most notable way, pitchers don't pitch as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Starting pitchers go 5-6 innings a game when you had Fergie Jenkins, who would pitch 27 complete games in one season.
If you're looking physically, they've gotten bigger, they've gotten faster.
They've gotten bigger and faster and stronger. So the person has changed. Now, if you go back to the Baseball Almanac, the first year that they started keeping records, how many home runs do you think there were?
Not many.
455.
That's a lot, actually.
How many do you? No, really, it's not. If you think about the number of
That's
games
true.
that were played, 162 games or 18.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right.
That's a lot of games, and there's not that many home runs, right? How many were in 2018?
A lot
last
more
year.
than that.
A lot.
5,585.
Okay.
12 times as many home runs as what there were when the game really kind of began. So the question is it doesn't count as much as it used to. We always talk about how great the home run is, but you know what? It's worthless compared to what it was when it first started. Okay. So if you think about that and you think about the physical size of the players changed, the way that we use pitchers has changed. We've fundamentally changed the game without changing the rules. And if you think about comparing it to softball, for instance, okay, when you look at the number, even in Division III, okay, if you looked at the men's games and the women's games here at St. Mary's, there would be a dramatic difference between the number of home runs that were hit by women and the number of home runs by men. And the question then is, how does the game change as a result of not having the home run out of the park? It makes the game much more strategic, much faster, much more entertaining to watch because it's a faster game and there's more strategy involved. Now, instead of trying to hit the ball over the outfield. Now you've got to say, okay, I've got to place it here in order to get from home plate to first place. And I've got to move this player from second to third. Where do I need to hit the ball to make it harder for them to do that? As opposed to how hard can I hit the ball?
So I see that and I understand that. And that's why some would argue the game is a little bit ugly today, because it's hit the ball in the air. It either goes over the fence or it's a fly out or it's a strikeout. You know, pitchers are throwing harder.
Yep.
Guys are only trying to hit the ball over the fence. I understand that. Now, I counter with, because you're taking the home run, the out of the park home run away, and begging for strategy from batters to strategically place the ball in different places.
Strategists, pitchers, and fielders.
My problem with that is when Aroldis Chapman is pitching 103 miles an hour, you don't have a lot of time to strategize. So should we move the mound back 5 feet and maybe give batters a longer period of time to see where the ball is and where they can place the ball?
I would argue that softball already does that. If you look at how long does it take a pitch to go from the softball mound to the plate and how long it takes a pitch from baseball to the plate, you'll find that softball is actually less reaction time than what baseball is.
Yeah.
So if softball players are doing it on a regular basis, are you saying that men just aren't smart enough to be able to do that?
Maybe not. And that is something that I hadn't thought about. There are not a lot of slap hitters anymore in baseball. There are a ton of slap hitters in softball where all they do is just slap the ball on the ground and that's a single.
Look how much slower they're throwing softballs compared to baseball.
Doesn't make any difference.
But the reaction, because the mound is
It's
so
the
much
reaction
closer.
time is actually faster in softball than it is in baseball. So if you have less reaction time in softball, that game and less home runs, the game becomes much more strategic and lots faster as a result of it. And think about the way that the bunt is operated in softball versus baseball.
No. I want to ask, so you think that this is how you want to change it? Is this something that you've considered just the fundamentals of baseball, or are you look at more, we want fans to come to the park, we want to make money, or is this something purely for the game?
No, it's purely for the game.
Okay.
I mean, it's just always one of those kind of things is that, all right, why don't we have football quarterbacks that if they can throw the ball past the end zone, why don't we count it as a score?
I would just say that they're totally two different things. Like the
No,
ability.
but fundamentally, it's the same thing. You're hitting it out of the park. You're going into foul territory and you're counting it in one game and not counting it in another.
I just think that is one of the most difficult things to do on a baseball field. Maybe we've gone away from the old timey, slap hitters and guys who hit 400 instead of trying to hit the ball. I mean, we always heard that Ichiro Suzuki could hit a home run every time he went up to the plate, but he just decided to bat 370 instead. We're going away from that, and it is ugly. We're watching 4-hour-long games, and we're seeing 8 pitch at bats, and there are either 20 runs scored in the game or there are 3. There's not a lot of in between. And what you're doing is going to change that. I'm not sure it'll make the game better from a viewer standpoint, though.
Oh, I think it would, because I think there'd be more action.
That's a good point, actually.
I see. This is what I heard about this. Is yes, there would be more action, but I don't see it possibly happening.
Is it? Well, I don't think it's going to happen either, because I think it's so ingrained. But I just think that if you want to think from a strategy standpoint, if I'm an owner, what do I want? I want people in the fans. And what are we doing? Now we're putting up Ferris wheels and we're putting up water slides and everything else to get people to get to the park as opposed to watch the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so let's make the game more entertaining. Let's make the game faster. And maybe people would actually go to watch the game as opposed to everything that happens at the game. I mean, the hot dogs aren't any good. So, you're not going there for decent food.
Hey, have you been to Guaranteed Rate Field in Chicago?
Yeah, I have actually.
It's pretty nice there.
Yeah, they're decent. But, and the other thing that we haven't talked about is the side of the field that is different. Now it's nice that baseball parks are quirky, okay, because they're all different, okay. But how are they different? Is the angle from home plate out to the left field foul pole the same?
Absolutely.
Everything's the same. The only thing is different is a home run in one park is not a home run in another park.
Mhm.
So that's not fair either.
That
I mean,
isn't. That isn't fair. And
Yeah.
it in the past, before we had advanced metrics, a lot of hitters were deemed better hitters than others because they played in Boston or because they played in Coors Field.
Exactly.
Now we have park adjusted statistics, so that has changed a bit. But just from a purely viewership standpoint, I understand that.
Yeah.
If
So
don't
you can't
understand-
really, and you're right. Unless we get math involved, we can't compare players now because
Yeah.
they play in different parks at different times, with different wins and everything else. So let's standardize it and say the only time a ball counts as a hit is if it falls in the field of play.
Okay, so let's just one more thing before we go.
Sure.
This has been very nice. I've actually appreciated this quite a bit. Would you, from just a logistics standpoint, would you say, okay, let's move the fences back, let's move the fences up, let's make them higher, let's make them lower? What are you going to do to ballparks? Are you going to standardize them all? Are you going to change anything within the field of play?
I don't think you have to. If you say that the field of play is the field of play. Now, you have short fields and you have long fields, and I guess you could probably standardize that if you wanted to. But as long as it stays in the field of play, you can move an outfielder in and out just as long as they're in the boundary. So that really doesn't make a difference. The idea is if it's a bigger field, then the batter has more opportunities to place ball in different places as they do a small field. Actually, a bigger field would be more advantageous to a batter than a small field would be. So, to me, I don't think you need to change the park. Sometimes you can't. I mean, can you imagine if you said, okay, we got to move the center field of Wrigley Field out 30 more feet? Okay, you're in the street somewhere. And that's not going to happen. So leave the park the same way, but just say the ball has to be in the field of play in order to count as a hit.
Okay. So any last words? I still don't think it's the best idea, but I totally understand where you're coming from. It would probably make the game better. I don't know if that would make more people watch it though.
Oh, I don't know if it would or not, but it'd be
But it's just
interesting
for
to
the
see
pure fundamental
of the
love
game.
of the sport.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for
My
coming
pleasure.
in. And 507-457-1615. That's the phone number. You want to comment on Mr. Pedrick's theory here? I think we're gonna talk about this for quite a long time for weeks to come. So I'll be sure to let you know if any other counterpoints come up.
Thanks for letting me come.
Okay. Thank you for listening. We will be right back with a SMOO athlete draft. We're going to go 6 rounds deep of the top 12 SMOO athletes who are currently at the school. So thank you for listening. We will be right back. You are listening to The Squeeze with Anthony Pasquazi, and this is Andy Alleman's final day of producing on KSMR Radio, broadcasting live on 92.5 FM on campus and 94.3 FM in Winona, Minnesota, as well as online at smumn.edu/KSMR. KSMR, real college radio. So speaking of Andy Alleman's final producing spot here on The Squeeze with Anthony Pasquazi,
Yep.
Thank you so much. I want to say thank you already before we have thank yous and before I forget to thank you. I want to thank you for all the work you've done over these last 3 weeks. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
I think we've had 2 of our best shows ever. Don't let Alec know. I think we've had 2 of our best shows ever since you've been on The Squeeze, and very excited personally to move the show to 3 hours next weekend from here on out. 3-hour show, moving closer to a true, radio time slot.
Yep.
It will be from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And every Sunday at noon, Andy Alleman will be in studio to give us a little bit of a, contributor kind of thing. He's not going to talk about himself. He's not going to talk about Smooth Sports. He's going to bring in whatever he wants to talk about, and we're going to talk about it for about 15 minutes every day, every Sunday at noon. Andy, I just want to say thank you again.
Oh, of course. And for the viewers out there, the listeners, we are looking for a little segment nickname. High Noon with Andy is currently in first place, but if you guys have anything else, feel free to call in or comment on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have anything, Andy Alleman, we're going at noon. Anything you can connect there, we'd be open to.
Please keep it clean.
Oh, of course.
But look at you, inspiring interaction with viewers.
We're doing what we can. Learned a couple things over the last 3 weeks.
Radio pro tip number 1. Okay, here we go. Long-awaited SMU athlete draft. I think we've been getting better with our drafts here.
Well, yeah.
Last weekend we had the SMU sports team draft. I picked 4 of my favorite sports teams on campus. Andy picked 4 of his favorite sports teams on campus, and you guys voted on the Squeeze Twitter poll. We got 30 votes. Again, I got 15. Andy got 15. Split right down the middle. So as a little tiebreaker, we're going to break off and go a little bit further into SMU sports. We're going to pick individual athletes. So here we go again, the on-air radio coin flip. It's a gold dollar. Look at this.
Let's go.
I got a little coffee drink out of the vending machine, so that's where I got the gold dollar. Call it in the air. This is for the first pick of the first round. Yes, we are doing a snake draft, so the next guy gets 2 picks, but it is an advantage, I think, in this draft, because to me, there is a clear best athlete that has been at this school. So here we go. Call it in the air. Heads or tails?
Tails.
Oh, it's heads. So I get the first pick in the first round. Andy probably is happy with that because last week he asked after winning the coin flip if he could, change it a bit. But I am going to pick, I think it's pretty obvious. I don't know if you're going to agree with the obvious part of this, but Brandy Blattner.
Interesting.
I mean, 2-sport All-American, led her basketball team to 3 MIAC playoffs in her 4 seasons, led the league, or was top 5 in the league multiple times in scoring and rebounding, nearly averaged a double-double over the course of her basketball career, also was an All-American in volleyball. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I understand volleyball statistics, so I'm not going to spit any out to you, but Brandy Blattner, 2-sport All-American, graduating this season. She is the first pick in the first round of the SMU athlete draft.
I know in volleyball, you don't know a lot about it, but she just hits with power. She was their go-to when they needed points, basically. When they needed to get a kill, she was the person they always usually went to.
Okay, so there we go. Yep. Would you have agreed? Was that the number 1 pick in the draft?
I mean, based off of accomplishments, honestly, yeah.
Okay,
I would agree with that.
I'm happy I got the honor of picking Brandy Blattner. With the second pick in the first round, we are going 6 rounds deep here in this draft. Andy Alleman, who you got?
I'm going to go with Jimmer Green.
Wow. James, Jimmer, Green. I agree with that. So let me know.
He what did he win last year? Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year.
He's been unbelievable. He's been lights out. He was the driving reason why the team made it to the playoffs last year and will hopefully make it this year. I don't know how many awards he won for Pitcher of the Week.
He won 2 last season and 2 already this season.
There you go. I think it speaks for itself. And you just see the kid in the gym, working in the rack at 10, 11 o'clock at night, just throwing with the towel. I think his work ethic is unbelievable.
So James Jimmer Green, I agree with you. He's only a sophomore, rookie of the year, already all MIAC honors.
freshman season, 1 season in, he was already up for men's athlete of the year at the M Club Awards.
There you go. I mean, Maltz, he's going to be an almost 4-year All-MIAC. There's going to be some talk about him being an All-American already this season, and he's only a sophomore. So James Jimmer Green, one of the hardest working guys at this school. The only thing I have to say is maybe you didn't focus on the guys who play 2 sports, but maybe those are for later in the draft.
It's gonna be there's a lot of names that I want to pick, but you gotta
go with the best. Yeah. You gotta go with the best at the top. Okay, with the first pick in the second round, Andy, who do you have? Please don't do this to me.
It's gonna be so tough. I gotta go with Kyle Lichtenegger.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Kyle. Why? Why'd you pick Kyle?
I mean, Kyle's been a consistent contributor and starter for the soccer team over the past 3 years, and I think he will next year. He's a 2-sport athlete that's been very good at both sports. I know he's a pretty good forward for the soccer team, and that's not even mentioning his track career. I mean, he has, off the top of my head, I want to say 3 or 4 records on his own, and he's looking to be a national qualifier this year in the 100, and trying to score as many points at the MIAC meet as he can. We'll see what he can do, but I'm pretty optimistic that he's going to be one of the best athletes on campus.
3-sport athlete.
3-sport.
Indoor and outdoor are different.
We're not going there. We're not going there.
You heard Pedrick's crusade. This is my crusade. Indoor and outdoor track, 2 totally different sports. But I digress. So Kyle Lichtenegger, I would not have picked him with my next 2 picks in this draft. So thank you for not picking who do you think I'm going to pick right now?
I really don't know. There's a lot of athletes on campus.
I'm his biggest fan.
Okay, go ahead.
Eli Cave is the second pick in the first round. Eli Cave snubbed for first team all MIAC honors in his sophomore season, coming back from a devastating knee injury, averaging nearly 20 points a game, nearly 10 rebounds a game, nearly 7 assists a game. The guy was absolutely snubbed. We've talked about it before. You can go back on the YouTube live streams and listen to it. One of the best guys I know. He's been on the show, friend of the show, just a great all-around kid. I've had him in 2 classes with myself, a funny dude, and just all-around great guy.
No, and it's tough because if he stays healthy, he's going to be an unbelievable talent the next couple of years. And what kind of separated Kyle from him for me is that, Kyle's he's a 2-sport athlete, and he's just more proven. Eli in the next couple of years is still going to be a great, he's got at least 2 more years. So it was a tough choice, but I would have went with that too.
Yeah. So Eli Cave, let me just say it again. He was the second best player in the conference this year. He's 1 year younger than Booker Copeland. He will have his chance to win MIAC Conference Player of the Year. It's going to be him, Anders Nelson, his senior year.
Yep.
He's going to be in the contention for that award, and I'm excited to see him grow. Just needs to get a little bit better on defense. A little bit better on defense. He knows it. We all know it. Coach Brown knows it. So I'm sure he'll be working on it this summer. And now, with the first pick in the 3rd round, does belong to me. I got both of the All-Americans, dude. I got Becca Dupe.
There you go.
Becca Dupe. We know her well. She was on the track team her first 3 seasons, her first 3 years in school here. She's been a 3-sport athlete. She plays soccer, indoor track, outdoor track. All-American in the triple jump.
Yes.
All-American in the triple jump.
6th place last season.
Very close in the long jump, multiple seasons. Very close to being a multi-time All-American. Again, just a great athlete. Sad to see a devastating knee injury. The same thing that happened to Eli Cave in soccer this season, her tertiary sport. She hurt her knee, wouldn't be able to finish out her very prestigious career here at St. Mary's. Sad to see her go, but I believe she's going to be jumping next year for Mankato State.
She will. I think she got into the graduate program there, and I think she's doing her last indoor and outdoor season there. So we wish her the best of luck.
Absolutely, and she's in Division II, which is good for us. If she's not on her team, don't compete against us because you're amazing. So Becca Dupe, I'm very happy with my first 3 picks. Andy, who do you got?
This is a tough one. I got to go with my boy Desmond Stewart.
Come on!
Oh,
why'd you pick him? That I was gonna pick him next.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Dez is a very low-key athlete. But he's really shown out the last couple of years. He's been an unbelievable jumper. He's been a really great sprinter. He's been on a relay 4x4 indoor his freshman year. He actually set a school record. And on top of that, he's been a first-team All-MIAC in triple jump and long jump. I know he wants to be a MIAC champion, and I have no doubt in my mind that he will get there. So
Yeah,
he's my pick.
I
That's why
agree.
he's my pick.
I didn't pick him earlier just because, he hasn't been an All-American. He's not the second best guy in the conference in track. But Desmond Stewart
he's technically first team All-MIAC.
He has been first team All-MIAC
Yeah.
a couple times.
Yep.
That is true. It is kind of funny in track because you look
No.
at it and you think to yourself, because
Yeah.
you're at that level, like, man, this is easy. But in basketball, you have to get voted in.
Yeah.
In baseball, you have to get voted in. There's so much more.
And guys, I promise I'm not a complete homer for the track team. It's just
I know,
we got
you're
some
just-
really good athletes, and I
We
think that's why I went with it. So
Okay, and then your next pick.
this is a tough one. I think I'm gonna go with Kyle Mee. I know he was up for MIAC player for St. Mary's Men's Athlete of the Year last year, and he's been a couple of times. He's been a first team All MIAC hockey player for his position. I'm not really knowledgeable about hockey, but I think he's been a pretty good guy and a pretty solid contributor for the team and a good leader. So that's my pick.
Yeah, 2-year captain, I think,
Yeah.
Kyle Mee.
And he's got a year to go. He could be a 3-year captain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
only a junior.
There we go. I didn't know that. That's a little dark horse pick. He wasn't even on my draft board. So
Yeah.
Good to see that. My next pick, Brooklyn Paulson. Brooklyn
There you go.
Paulson, women's basketball team. She was a freshman this season, won freshman player of the year. So again, you have a rookie of the year. I have a rookie of the year. She absolutely shot lights out at the beginning of the season, fell off a little bit near the end, but she is that person who stepped into the shoes of Alexa Huseman. We were worried about who was going to fill her shoes 2 seasons ago. It was Brooklyn Paulson this past year. She's going to be the leader of this team. Brandy Blattner is gone. We don't know who's going to step up and fill her shoes at the moment. Brooklyn Paulson, don't be surprised if you see her averaging close to 20 points a game next season.
She's a pretty lights out shooter and a raw scorer.
Okay, so I have 2 more picks remaining, one at the moment. And I think I'm going to go Matt Pachowski. We heard a little bit about him from both Stilp and Connor Cornell. Matthew Pachowski has started quite a bit this season. He's only a sophomore. Again, already MIAC Player of the Week once this year. He's batting over 400 on the season. Good for second in the conference. And if he keeps that up, he'll be just as good as Eli Cave is based on statistics.
Yep.
He could be the second best hitter in the MIAC if he continues at this rampant pace.
Yeah, that's a good quality pick.
Yeah, Matthew Pachowski. That's another dark horse.
Yep.
And now you get to pick the last 2, your last 2 picks in this 6-round smooth athlete draft.
I'm gonna throw another dark horse out there just because I think she's someone that's kind of been slipping under the radar a little bit. Hallie Schmeling.
Gosh darn it.
Yep. She's a 2-sport athlete. For listeners who do not know who she is, she has been a basketball player that's been a starter or a regular contributor the last 2 years. She's only a sophomore. I would argue that she's the best player in the women's softball team. Sent one out of the park.
Yeah,
yesterday.
she hit a home run,
Yep,
first
she hit
one
a
of the
home run.
year for
And
Cardinal.
I know she was in a lot of the statistics and the recaps for the spring trip down to Florida. I think that she's been starting for 2 years as a freshman on both teams. I think she's a really good, solid pick, and maybe she doesn't get the headlines because she's not jacking home runs or she's not hitting threes and scoring a lot of points. But I think she's a really good contributor and a key cog to both teams.
Yeah, there you go. Another 2-sport athlete, more of a role player in basketball, but somebody who you can trust with the basketball from a point guard perspective. Very good athlete. She's one of the fastest people on the court when she steps on there.
No,
and then in softball, she's on a team that is struggling this season, is going to struggle for the remainder of the season. But next year, junior year, the year following that, senior year, she is going to be one of the leaders that's going to bring this team out of the depths of the MIAC. We could see a nice turnaround for that softball team, and I think Hallie Schmeling is going to be a part of it.
I agree with that fully.
And your final pick in this draft.
This is going to be a tough one. I got to go. I got to go with Julia Bovey, just because she's been someone. Again, I'm picking a lot of dark horses here, but I think that's kind of St. Mary's in general.
You're playing to the squeeze followers base. That's what you're doing. You're
No,
playing
no,
to the squeeze
no.
followers
Okay.
base.
Okay, let me explain myself. She's a she just recently set the record for single wins in a career. And I think she's been rock solid. I've never heard anything bad about her on the women's tennis.
No, not at all.
And for my listeners out there, I'm not as much aware of women's tennis, but it's she's been one of my first friends at St. Mary's, and I'm glad to see that she's doing really well, and that's why I think I chose her as my last pick.
Yeah, so let's just look back at Andy's picks here. James Jimmer Green, Kyle Lichtenegger, Desmond Stewart, Kyle Mee, Hallie Schmaling, and Julia Bovey. Man, that's a tough name. That's a tough name. And then with my final pick in this draft, thank you for not touching this young man. That sounded weird. Caden Freetley.
Yeah, I was thinking that
Caden Freetley. So could you not tell that I was the play-by-play guy or the color commentary guy for all these basketball teams? I picked 1, 2, 3, 4 of my 6 are all basketball players. But Caden Freetley, all rookie team this year, all rookie honors. Again, another scorer. He was very good on the defensive end. He averaged close to 10 points and just under 5 rebounds. I believe those might be a little bit fudged, but he came off the bench to start the season, then fell into a starter's role as a freshman. He impressed me a lot. There were some games where he did not find his stroke. I remember the first game, Gustavus away. That was one of the first games I got to watch with this basketball team play. He was off the whole game, but Coach Fano told him, you're the guy. You're the guy that's going to win us a lot of ball games. So keep shooting. And then at North Park, when they came to Chicago over Thanksgiving, Christmas break, I don't remember which one. I think it was Christmas break. They came to North Park, my neck of the woods. I brought my dad there. He scored 23 points. He nailed 5 threes. I mean, it was some very impressive stuff, and you saw what you could expect to see for the rest of Caden Freetley's career. So that rounds out my draft. Brandy Blattner, Eli Cave, Becca Dupe, Brooklyn Paulson, Matthew Pachowski, and Caden Freetley. So there we go. I think these are 2 very quality drafts.
Yeah.
And there are many athletes that I'm sure we left off this.
And, for all the athletes that maybe listen out there that we didn't pick, maybe this is motivation to work harder. We're not trying to disrespect everyone. We're just trying to win our competition here. So we went with the picks we thought were best.
Just guys off the top of my head, guys and girls who have won, MIAC Player of the Weeks, Tommy Stang, Ryan Wolf. I mean, Rachel Kettle. There's so many. Rachel Odie. I mean, she's 5th in the nation, and we didn't even pick her. So that just tells you how many quality athletes we have at this school,
or how well researched our draft boards were.
No, what are you talking? Our draft boards were ridiculous.
No, you're right.
I'm very happy with my draft. So 507-457-1615. That's the phone number. We haven't given away a T-shirt yet. We have taken some calls, which has been awesome. We always love hearing from you. 507-457-1615. Let's just take a second to look at the chat. Nice job, fellas, from Damon Cornell, probably related to Connor. Thank you for the compliment. And then Alec Rude, Cubs stink. They do stink at the moment. If you were listening earlier, they're not going to stink for very much longer. It's okay. Calm down. We will get there. 507-457-1615. What's the best way to gear up for Townie this year? How about a night of running, dancing, and partying with DJ Charco? That is exactly what Light Up the Night 3K on Friday, April 26th is. A night to exercise with friends and support your fellow students. The event is free to St. Mary's students, and the run starts at 8 p.m., followed by a DJ Charco concert at 9 p.m. Dance yourself into Townie during this incredible event. We'll be right back to talk about the best article I've read in months about the demise of the Green Bay Packers and their terrible quarterback. I'm very excited to talk about that. We'll be right back. 507-457-1615. That's the phone number.
And that's all I need.
You are listening to The Squeeze with Anthony Pasquazi on KSMR Radio, broadcasting live at 92.5 FM on campus and 94.3 FM in Winona, Minnesota, as well as online at smumn.edu/KSMR. KSMR Reveal College. Bleh. I tried to say it as fast as I could. I tried to say it as fast as I could.
That was fast. That was good.
I sounded like an auctioneer. But before we talk about my favorite topic, it seems like Andy, the resident Packers fan here on the show, doesn't really want to talk about this topic. So that's okay.
We will get to it.
We'll hold off just a moment for him to talk about his college basketball take. Has something to do with defensive efficiency. Tell me.
All right. So the two teams that are playing the championship on Monday are Texas Tech, who is the number one adjusted defensive efficiency in the nation, and Virginia, who's number 5. And what that tells me is that defense wins championships. And when you're looking at that, I think that's something that could spearhead a movement where teams in college basketball realize we got to start locking down on defense. And when you go to the pro sports, it's all about offense and scoring. You know, football, basketball, they're all the offenses up. But when it comes to college basketball, I think that's what's going to win, and that's what's going to matter more than recruits, more than shooting, more than offense. I think it's going to be locking down on defense.
But boy, was that ugly. I mean,
both
of those games were disgusting.
No, they were, but I mean, it's what's going to win championships. They're not looking to gain viewers. They're looking to bring home a title. And those are two of the best teams that play defense in the nation.
That's true. I mean, you're right. Defense does win championships, as cliche as it is. Clearly, it's true. So defense does win championships. I would argue, maybe say, lean away from defense. Don't call as many fouls. If you want more people to watch college basketball on a regular basis, I mean, everybody watches college basketball during March Madness, but just in the regular season, maybe allow the boys to play a little bit more. Maybe, baseball has an issue with viewership. March Madness does not. So it probably will not change anything. But, basketball is meant to be played offensively, in my opinion.
And so then if you look at offense, Texas Tech, number 28 in adjusted offensive efficiency, Virginia, number 3. I mean, Virginia's top 5 in both. Maybe that I think that's
just the best team.
I think that's your NCAA champion coming up here on Monday night.
Yeah, and it was very unfortunate. I kind of lost all March Madness juice once Zion was out. I had so much riding on him. I didn't pick the Duke to win all the way, to go all the way. But once they were eliminated, there was just really no reason for me to watch. None of these guys are really going to make a splash in the NBA. So he was hands down the most exciting thing about this tournament. Yeah. And once he was out, I kind of just fell out of love with it. The Cubs started losing a lot of games, so I just had to watch that, and
interesting stat I just found. Michigan State, who beat Duke, has the number 9 adjusted defensive efficiency in the nation. Defense wins championships.
Okay, defense wins championships, but so does Zion Williamson. I guess not this season.
Nope.
It is kind of funny. That's true. Look at it.
Yeah.
In a 1-game playoff, like college basketball, maybe the best player doesn't always win. It's a little more like baseball. It's a little more randomized. But in the NBA, let's be real. The teams with the best players are the best teams. In that case, this season, the Bucks, they're my pick to go all the way. I love them. I mean, Giannis is hands down the MVP. I don't think James Harden really has an argument anymore. There's nobody who did everything better than Giannis. Antetokounmpo.
Yep.
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Antetokounmpo. And for my next segment coming up next week, we will be getting into NBA basketball. Playoffs are coming up. They're on the last week of the regular season, NFL draft. And rolling into that, let's talk about the Packers.
Yeah.
I'm all yours.
Yeah. So I don't want you to say anything for a little bit.
I'm all yours.
I just don't want you to say anything because I want to rub this in just a bit. I just want to rub the dookie in just a tiny bit because you've been doing it to me forever.
Stop.
Not you. I just told you not to talk and then you talk. So it's okay. I'm just kidding. But not you as a person, but Packers fans have been rubbing it in the face of Bears fans forever. And yes, you've had one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback to quarterback ever. There's not a man, there's not a person on this planet who has been a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. Until this article by Tyler Dunn of Bleacher Report magazine. This article took me half an hour to read. It is about 100 scrolls with your mouse on a laptop. And boy, is it in depth. It goes into the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and Coach Mike McCarthy. If you ask me, in my opinion, and it's in the article as well, it's a shared opinion. I'm sure you probably agree. Aaron Rodgers deserves to have 3, 4, maybe 5 rings on his hand at this point in his career. He's 35 years old, and the man has won 1 Super Bowl. He's won 1 Super Bowl. One of the biggest failures of any sports organization ever is allowing this man to maybe end his career with 1 Super Bowl. A lot of that has to do with Aaron Rodgers, and a lot of it has to do with Mike McCarthy. We don't have time to go into it. Like I said, it took me a half hour to read. It's an awesome read, unless you're a Packers fan. It's an awesome read. I'm sure, I mean, even you probably enjoyed it to look into this and to see the relationship between these 2 guys. I don't want to focus on the Mike McCarthy part about him getting massages during meetings and him being an idiot, because he's been an idiot. I'm sure you agree.
I have my opinions.
Okay, and I'd love to hear him in a second. Just Aaron Rodgers is a loon. Aaron Rodgers is a crazy person. The craziest thing to me in this entire article that I read this morning, he hated Mike McCarthy from day one, not because he was a bad coach, not because he just didn't get along with him or that he heard bad things about him. Do you know why Aaron Rodgers didn't like Mike McCarthy from day one? This is an NFL quarterback talking to his NFL head coach, interacting with his NFL head coach. Do you know why he didn't like him from day one? Because when he was an offensive coordinator in Kansas City and they picked Alex Smith over him, he said the words, Alex Smith is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. Just because he said that, Aaron Rodgers hated him from the day they set foot in the same meeting room. How petty can you get? That's just the surface of the pettiness from Aaron Rodgers. Like I said, don't have time to detail it right now, but shutting out wide receivers, not listening to his coach, changing plays in the huddle. He's a psycho. Shutting out his family. It is a killer mentality. It's a winner mentality, Mamba mentality, Jordan mentality. They all share it, but not to this level.
I think
absolutely.
I don't even know where to start. I would say, I think there's truth to both sides. I think Mike McCarthy got lazy as a head coach. I don't know if I buy into the massage thing. I mean, you don't always believe what you read. And I know this is an unbelievably in-depth article.
Very well sourced.
Yeah, no, but his offense did get stagnant. He did think it was more the system than the quarterback, and it was in fact the quarterback. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I can't defend him. He comes off as moody, as crazy sometimes, shutting out his family. There's 2 sides to every story with that. So some of it is his family, some of it is him. The one that stuck out to me that was really interesting is when Greg Jennings, his leading wide receiver for 3 years from 2010 to 2012 or 13, when he was talking to a player on the San Francisco 49ers, Aaron Rodgers came up and said, well, you're a 49er now. It was Greg Jennings last year with the Packers in his contract. That's when Greg Jennings figured that he was gone. That's a really interesting take to me. That's something you can't make up. And I mean, Greg Jennings doesn't have a bone to pick in it, and in the fight right now. And on top of Jermichael Finley digging in, it's just interesting because you get a lot of takes on both sides when you get something like this. And there have been a lot of players that don't have a bone to pick in the fight that have stood up for Aaron Rodgers. So I think it's just interesting. I think it goes both ways. I think there's truth to both stories. He's moody, he's crazy, but I think he's also vicious and cutthroat, and I think that's what's made him one of the best quarterbacks ever. We'll see. But
that vicious cutthroat mentality has led him to control the locker room or control the huddle. There is an issue when it's just Mamba mentality, or when it's just Jordan mentality, and it's just me.
Yeah.
As long as that doesn't bleed into the rest of the team, it's perfect. Well, that's why those players were so great. That's why combined they won 11 finals championships. Aaron Rodgers, the issue with him is he has let that burning desire to win on the inside creep out as insecurity, not as I need to better myself. It's you need to better yourself to help me win.
Oh no, and he didn't take they did state in the article he didn't take accountability for some of his mistakes. Sometimes it's always the receiver's fault. And it's interesting because early on in his career, when they did in fact win that Super Bowl his third year as a starter, they had a lot of veteran presence in the locker room that were leaders. And Aaron Rodgers had to step up and be a leader when these guys left.
He's not a leader. Some guys just are not leaders.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But
You can't be a cancer, though.
No, and when he's put in that role as a leader and he's not suited for it, you're getting stuff like this where the environment gets toxic. Hopefully, with Matt LaFleur out there, it's gonna be interesting to watch how Aaron Rodgers treats a head coach that's like 4 years older than him,
Literally, yeah.
rookie head coach. We're gonna see how it goes. Hopefully that the Packers do a little well this season. It'll be a process, but we'll see.
Yeah, and just to look at it from a Bears perspective, it is bleak. The future looks bleak right now for the Packers. There are definite good things going on in that organization right now. They're finally signing free agents. Their defense looks like it won't be terrible. And they finally don't have an idiot with the headset on. So those are all great things. Aaron Rodgers is 35 years old. And yes, Tom Brady's 43, but they play different games. Aaron Rodgers has always built his game on arm strength, escapability, athleticism. And clearly he's not all there in the head. Tom Brady, although kind of weird, isn't crazy. He's very cerebral. He's very smart, calculated. And that's why even with a 46-year-old or 44-year-old flabby arm, he's still able to win a Super Bowl because he and Belichick have mind meld. Maybe that happens with Aaron Rodgers. Maybe Matt LaFleur is the Rodgers whisperer.
Maybe.
But maybe not. And maybe you have a 35-year-old athletic quarterback who's going to lose his athleticism, who isn't going to buy into the program, and who might make it a cancerous locker room. There's two ways to look at it. I think that's a great way to end.
We'll see what next season brings.
We'll see. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it every week here on The Squeeze. Next weekend, 11 to 2 o'clock on Sunday. Alec Rude will be back in the producer's chair, and Andy Alleman will be there at noon to talk a little bit NBA basketball. For sure, I'm going to do a interview with Hallie Schmaling during this week. We're going to play that on air next weekend. And then Coach Foley approached me and said, hey, man, why haven't I been on The Squeeze yet? So we're going to get Coach Foley, head women's basketball coach, on the show next weekend. Very excited to talk to all of those people. Again, Andy, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. And thank you all for listening. This has been The Squeeze with Anthony Pasquazi.
It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. I'll see you next week, guys.